We look forward to talking about whether people should start a business or they should get a job right out of college. I look forward to it, and let's make this happen. All right. Look forward to having this discussion. So maybe Isaac could even, jump in on this. But so let's think of a scenario. We're getting out of college. Okay. Should you jump right into starting a business, or should you get a job first? We'll start with Molly first. What did you do, and what would you recommend? So what did you do, and what do you recommend?
Well, I got a job. I worked at the bank. It was good. I don't think I had, at that moment after just school, I was prepared, honestly, for the real life. No one was telling me that I should start a business in my life. Like, my parents both had jobs. So for me, it was like, all right, school, job.
Right.
I mean, I think that the whole business mindset kind of came later on. So it really depends on the person, I guess.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
So say you have a daughter or son, what would you recommend to them? Would you tell them to kind of be self-aware and follow that path? Or would you say this is the right path to go initially?
So the thing about how I grew up, my parents allowed me to choose my decisions or make my decisions. I think that as long as there is clear choices, a little bit more on for my hypothetical child or children,
right.
I think then that I would definitely be like, all right, well, here are the choices. You can either go to school, be an employee, get a job, or if you would like to create the habits or build the mindset of it's going to be hard, it's going to be tough, but you can persevere through it into the whole business setting, then I would share those options. So I'm not going to be like, you need to start a business.
Right.
It's going to be their choice ultimately.
Got it. Andrea?
Well, speaking from experience, I kind of had the most ideal situation. I was in college. I got a job here at Phoenix, and I was working full-time while still going to school full-time. And I graduated, stayed here, obviously. I'm still here. And then I don't think that when you come out of college, not a lot of people have the idea of starting a business, only because, like Molly said, like, you really aren't prepared. Like, no offense to anyone that got a college degree for business, but it's kind of like a adult participation trophy. Unless you're an accountant or do finance or you're a lawyer or an engineer, those types of things you need to go to school for. Business management, not so much, because you can't really learn things in a textbook. You kind of need to learn them hands-on. And that's, right. I learned more in my first year at Phoenix than I did in my 4 years at college.
Right.
No offense to anyone. Again, I went to a great business school, but,
People are offended. So you just shat on all the MBAs pretty much.
That too. Like, I get it. 15 years ago, it was the route. You get a college degree, you get your bachelor's, then your master's. Like, my parents both have their master's, and they're still kind of, I wouldn't say hounding me and my sisters, but like, when are you going to go back and get your master's? And it's like, I don't need it. I work at a business that we don't care about what paper you got or what school you went to. So I had the ideal situation where I learned a lot more things hands-on. And then later on in my career, I decided I wanted to start my own business. And I think that it is smart to get more hands-on training first. Also, stack some cash where you can actually start a business, because I think it's, unless you know someone in Silicon Valley or someone that started an app or whatever, which is a very small percentage of people. But I think get a job first, learn, and then start your business if that's really what you want to do.
Got it. Sounds good. Thanks for sharing that. I appreciate it. and don't get an MBA. All right.
Don't be
I
offended.
can't imagine going back to school.
Don't be offended.
For me personally, I can't. For me, once I graduated, I actually started working here, like after I had graduated school. So as far as like my advice, I think, I think that if you have the background and you have the money and the idea and you have something that you're like passionate about, run with it and go with it and start a business. But I think I would very much agree with what you're saying. In terms of this is an option. So I think for me same thing, like for me, it wasn't like my parents were like, oh, you can run a business. And thinking about it now, like my parents weren't even like, hey, there's sports that you can join. Like we were talking about that, right?
Extracurricular activities.
Yeah, extracurricular activities. So it wasn't anything that was presented to me. I think for me personally, I was just trying to pass my classes, get my business degree, and it wasn't like something that I was presented with. But now I think that I would see it as an option for other people, just because it wasn't for me. It wasn't.
What business degree did you get?
Administration.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So starting a job is ideal.
I think it depends on the person. Yeah. For me, I ended up getting a job.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Okay, cool. All right. I won't talk too much about this, but initially, I would say get a job first. That would be my piece of advice.
Yeah.
Get a job first, and then start a business later. Okay, Sebastian. Topic is: would you, out of college, start a business first, or would you get a job? Should somebody start a business or get a job right out of college?
Yeah, and I would say that would depend entirely on the person and their background. I started my first business when I was 11 years old, so by the time I got through college, I already had quite a bit of experience running a business. But I coach a lot of people in their mid-20s, and the advice that I consistently give is go work for somebody who's going to give you an education. So if you don't know how to run a business, you don't have any experience running a business, go work for somebody who's going to pay you to learn, which they're not out there. That's not a common thing. You kind of have to look to find those guys. But that's where I would go. Develop the skills.
I think that's the important piece, that they need to go work where they are trying to create a business in, as opposed to like working at El Pollo Loco. Like that's not going to bring you any, unless you want to run a fast food joint.
Exactly. Yeah. So I would say go get a job with the intention of eventually starting a business. With the intention, it's much different. If you go with the intention of starting a business, much different than just getting a job just to get a job and earn like whatever salary you're earning. Right. It's much different. Kat?
I agree with everyone's sentiments so far, but I think it just totally depends on the individual. Like there are people out there, like entrepreneurship is sexy right now.
Yeah.
Like at least
for the first time in like
whatever the
a long time.
fruit is, like everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. But like 95% of people that say that, they don't know what they're actually saying. Like they don't know what the grind is to open and start your own business. So I think personally, I would say you are going to want to have some kind of experience or at least the knowledge before you start a business. But there are plenty of people out there that didn't and have the personality to figure it out and learn as they go.
That's true.
So you just have to like really evaluate what your values are. I think it is great to like at least have some skills before you're diving into it. But if you already have those, or you have the confidence of like, I'm going to figure this out along the way, you can start a business.
Unagi.
I did a sound drip right now. You don't have headphones on, but
Unagi.
Yeah, from Friends. Okay, so I would say I want to explain something about career versus business, and obviously anyone can jump in at any time. When you start a job with somebody that has developed a business, there's an infrastructure that's built that you can never learn by doing it on your own. Like there's things that you learn in a business that, like once you develop that business, you go, oh, the successful person did this. This is what I should do, and so you accelerate your growth and speed of learning a lot, as opposed to trying to learn everything you're on your own, and you take 3 times, 4 times, 5 times longer to learn the same thing, and you make a ton of mistakes that are very painful.
Yeah, or you learn what they did wrong, right?
Yeah, you learn what they
Not
did
good at
wrong.
that thing.
Exactly. So it's better to learn from others than learn from your own mistakes. You learn way faster when you learn from others. So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, that's what I continue to say. That's getting an education. Go get advice from somebody who is where you want to be.
Yeah.
This gets lost so much in our society. And talking about the quote unquote sexiness of entrepreneurship, that's why most people I call wantrepreneurs, not entrepreneurs. They don't actually, it's not the idea of running a business that's exciting to them. It's not the idea of the grind, the hard work that they really aren't even inventorying yet. It's that they want the fruit of running their own business. They see the Instagram reel and they're like, that's what I want. I want to be free. I want to be able to go wherever I want to go. So they're chasing the results without understanding the work that goes into it. And that's where the grind is, which is why most people are not successful as business people. Most people are probably set to be better employees, where you have a different kind of accountability, different kind of responsibility than somebody who's, putting it all on their shoulders. So, but I would go work for somebody who has an education that they can pass on to me, and I don't have to relearn a lot of lessons, although some lessons and some of the most powerful ones you have to learn personally, I think. But if I can avoid it, I want to.
I feel like people listening to this podcast need to be brought down to earth a little bit, especially people graduating, because obviously all they see on Instagram is like, I have all these accolades. I'm driving a fast, nice car.
That I rented.
By the way, like most wealthy people don't buy like fancy cars right away. They don't. I mean, it's just stupid. It's a depreciating asset. You shouldn't buy like this fancy car
Unless they want to be popular on Instagram.
unless they want to be popular on Instagram. That could be a strategy. That you could write a book, a manual on that, and then sell it for $10 probably. But there's too many like Instagram reels and people that are showing off certain things about entrepreneurship, and it's weird though because like all these people on Instagram, they're renting stuff. They're not buying stuff. They're, taking a picture of themselves we talked about this in a plane, saying they're like the private life is amazing. Like the private, flights are amazing, whatever the case may be. So there's a bunch of fluff out there. But what is entrepreneurship really like? Like, let's just talk about the ugliness of entrepreneurship, if you will.
And I would just say, just as a caveat, not everyone on Instagram is fake. There are some great people.
There are some great
work.
Sam Bakhtiar was a real one.
That
right?
are legit. But for every legit one, there's probably 10 not legit ones.
Right. So what does the not legit one look like? What should you look out for with regard to the non-legit ones? Like what was a piece of advice they would give, or what is a picture that they would have on their Instagram that would identify them as not real?
I don't know that there's any one thing, but somebody who's done the work has a different integrity to their message and a different confidence. They're probably also not chasing likes and followers, and they're probably not spending a lot of time trying to convince you of how successful they are. If you are successful, you don't need to convince anyone that you are. So there's an integrity piece that's missing. It cracks me up, and I don't necessarily mean this as an insult, but it may come across this way. It cracks me up how many 21, 22, 23, 24-year-old, what I would consider kids, are trying to sell business advice. Right? He's like, you haven't done shit yet. Like, go do something first. Now, if Gary Vee's wanting to sell business advice, I'm listening. Right? He's a practitioner. He's somebody who's in it. But a lot of the people, that's the big difference. The people who are too busy running their businesses are probably the people we need speaking and sharing on Instagram, because they're actually doing the work versus, I put this information together that somebody sold to me and I'm going to resell it now and package it. And there's no integrity to what I'm saying because I actually haven't done the work.
Yeah, they're
20-year-old life coach.
20-year-old
life coach. Cracks me up.
Yeah, what could you do with that? Like, doesn't make sense.
And it's, to be clear, their information may be solid.
It could be.
It's not the information.
But it's not coming from them usually.
Yeah, there's no integrity to what they're saying because they haven't lived it.
Right.
It's
and there's a lot of nuance.
Integrated knowledge.
There's a lot of nuance entailed. So if somebody's asking specific advice, like there's going to be certain nuances that they're not going to be able to give that you would immediately know that they're not able to give if you were legit, essentially, right? So can you tell within the first 5 minutes? I've heard you say this. Can you all tell within the first 5 minutes of talking to someone whether they're a legitimate entrepreneur or not?
I think so.
I think so too. But I think so too.
It's easier to tell who is than who's not. Who is obvious because they're usually not trying to sell you on it.
Yeah.
And they have a different confidence and air to the way they speak. Like I grew up in Seattle during the .com run and Microsoft and Amazon's way up, among other big companies. And one of the things I loved is you could go out to a bar there, a restaurant, and sit down next to a guy in jeans and a flannel who was worth $100 million, and you'd never know it. And it happened to me many times. And he drove a Ford 150 very stereotypically.
Really? Yeah.
That was hilarious
Awesome.
to me. And then I came down here, and it was just equally as hilarious how many people dressed like they had money that were deeply in debt. The guy who's renting an apartment but driving an $80,000 Mercedes. Yeah. I'm like, what? That doesn't make any sense to me, because there's this need to flash success and convince people. Most successful people, unless they have a chip on their shoulder or they're first gen or new money, they generally don't feel compelled to have to prove to you that they're successful.
There is a motivation, though, to prove people wrong, though, in many circumstances.
Yeah, that's the chip on the shoulder guy.
Chip on the shoulder, yeah.
Which is why I get it. Some people want to drive the fancy car and have the big house because they want to prove to everyone that they made it.
Yeah.
And they'll eventually that gets old and you get over it, and you know that's less important. But there is a season for a lot of those guys where they want to flash wealth, right? Status signaling.
Absolutely. Okay, what's the ugly part about having a job initially? So we talk about entrepreneurship. So I'll talk briefly about the ugly part of entrepreneurship. Betrayal, you're broke, you hire the wrong people, you have to pay people when you don't have money, a lot of different things.
You're the last person to get paid.
You're the last person to get paid.
Work is not 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. 5 days a week. Let me just check out.
Yeah.
How about this? There's a point in your entrepreneurial career where everyone and their mother is going to try to convince you not to do this anymore. That's one thing. A lot of entrepreneurs go through that, I think, where you have a difficult moment, and from the outside looking in, it looks really horrible.
At least when you're not successful, right? Everyone's like, I told you this was a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Like, blah, blah, blah. You're going to lose all your money. But then if you're successful, they're like, wow.
I knew it the whole
You're so
time.
lucky. Like, I believed in you. You got this.
If your social circle is convincing you not to
I
do
was
it,
just going to say.
there's one of two things going on.
It's usually parents.
Either your social circle is all employees, or you have a bunch of loving entrepreneurial friends that know that you don't have what it takes to be an entrepreneur.
Right.
But generally, it's the first, where it's like your whole world is employee-minded people that can only see the world through that lens.
Right. Or, by parents. Like, my dad was an accountant. He was not an entrepreneur at all. And so there was moments he was like, dude, just get a job. Like, you can get any job you want. And, I was like, no, that's not me. Sorry, I can't do it. Right.
I don't know. I really think it depends on the people that are around you. Like Sab said, like, I can't.
But you can't control your parents, though. Right?
I know, but it doesn't. I don't think that it would matter if I wanted to start a business and they see me grinding and this and that, and it's just not going well. I'm sure that they would talk to me and say, okay, like, let's look at it from a logical standpoint. Where are your numbers at? They wouldn't say, like, I think this is a horrible idea. I think that you should stop now. Yeah. Like, I would never hear that from my parents.
They would try to convince you?
I don't think I would hear that from my parents or even...
Yeah, my dad would try to convince me.
My boyfriend or anyone. I don't think that they'd be like, oh, no, like, sink the boat now. Like, don't keep going. I don't think I would ever hear that from them.
I think my parents are a little different. My mom's different than my dad, but, like, my dad would try to convince me, like, just get a job, like, he worked for the IRS. He was an accountant. He had a very traditional career path, like, very stable, like 401k, everything, like, you get a pension, all these things. And, that's what he would say. I think a lot of parents are like that. Obviously not people here. So, but I think a lot of parents, so I'm speaking for them, for those people that are like, you go through a struggle and your parents are like, hey, stop this. Like, you don't need to do this. Like, let's say you're negative $5 in the bank and you have this big bill coming up with rent or something, like a lease, right? Your parents are gonna be like, hey, maybe you should, do something else. Maybe you should, like, just get a stable career. You could do this on the side. What about that? Have you heard that before? You could do this on the side. It's hard. You can do this on the side, get a stable career, get a stable job, and then,
Well, I think that's what we were talking about, right? Like, you had mentioned it, getting a job and then developing the skills and, all that to start something on the side too. So
Yeah. Yeah. Which
You
is,
know?
which is, I think some of the ladies here are doing that currently, right? Okay, cool. All right. So let's talk about that in just a brief moment. So with side gigs but what's the bad part of having a job? The ugly part of having a job, because I want to give both sides to this. So we're just talking about the ugly part of being an entrepreneur, and then we should also talk about whether somebody's really an entrepreneur or not in a brief moment. But like, what is it? What's ugly about having a job when you're first getting out of college?
From what I've heard, not from what because I was already here when I was still going to school. From what I've heard is that a lot of people expect to be put into a position that's much higher than their own mind can allow. They expect to be making six figures right off the bat when they don't know jack. Like I said, adult participation trophy. I don't care who gets offended, but that is what a college degree is. Unless you are an accountant, a lawyer, a doctor, that is different. But people expect with a communication degree, no offense, to be making six figures in an office job.
By gracing people
And
with their
a lot of
presence.
those professions don't make six figures right
No.
out of the gate.
No.
A lot. Like the
A lot
lawyer-
of jobs shouldn't be making six figures right off the gate.
How many people make six figures in general? The overall population,
Just-
United States.
It was 4.5% before the pandemic.
4.5% make six figures. Really? Are you sure? I thought it was like 10%.
It may be now. It started going up massively in the last 18 months because of net worth started going up. Actually, I don't think income did. You should Google it. But it's not. It's not.
Isaac.
a large portion. Maybe it's 10%.
I got it.
I think if
Those
we
are good
hire
numbers
Isaac,
to
he's
look
gonna
at,
be
though,
doing.
when you want to start figuring out your path. Because a lot of people think six figures. Like, you realize how few people make that?
Yeah, very few people make it.
Oh, this is households. The percentage of households earning over 100K annually.
Households. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So that
Which
can
means
So that's
30%
Accumulation.
in 2020.
How many?
30%.
30%? Really?
Yeah.
That's
That makes
households.
sense.
That's
'cause
households.
two or more.
How about individual?
half that.
That was like 10%.
You could be right.
Yeah, you might be right.
Yep.
At 100 grand.
At
I
100
think,
grand.
I think quarter of a million drops way off.
Which is not much in LA area, Orange County area.
It's not coming up.
Do, do, do,
Do, do, do, do,
Hold
do.
on, hold on.
Dude, I should get like a.
do, 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 do.
Just play this.
Like that's the only drip that's.
Yeah, I feel like every time I play a drip, all of them are laughing. And you guys don't.
You guys don't hear our jokes. It's
It's like
literally
stuck.
an inside
Either
joke.
people are gonna assume, like,
can't-
if they don't assume that you're not wearing headphones, they're gonna be like, these guys are very stoic. They're just very emotionless. Because like some of the sound drips I'm playing are funny.
Oh,
They are
gosh,
funny.
It's making me want to log in. Okay, let's continue the conversation. I'll come back to you.
Okay.
Let's go.
All right, let's go. He's playing hip hop.
Done.
We can continue the conversation.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it
Okay.
keeps bringing up households for
I'm
me
pretty
as
sure
well.
it's 10%. I've looked it up multiple times, but it's 10% make above $100,000. And so, and by the way, you're not going to make that as an entrepreneur, starting starting out.
9% of Americans earn six figures as of September 24th, 2019.
9% of Americans. So what's the cause of this delusion of I have a communications degree, and I should engineers and accountants start out around 60 to 70,000, right? So like what's this delusion? Where is this coming from? And what is the ugly part of? So you said the ugly part of having a job is what? Is potentially is you want expectations?
Expectations of what you should be receiving right out the gate without like showing any kind of experience or anything like that.
I think there's a caveat to this. It depends on who you're working for.
Yeah.
But I would say like 70-80% of people are not happy in their jobs, in their careers.
Okay.
Yeah.
70-80% of people do not want to go to work. They don't want to drive however many hours or minutes they have to get to work.
Most heart attacks happen on Mondays.
Most heart attacks happen on Mondays. Exactly. So it really is very dependent on. So if you find an entrepreneur that you really like working with, you should just hold on to that entrepreneur because most people hate their job. So, you know, so my perspective is, as a job, it starts out easy. You have benefits, you have
Sometimes they
salary.
don't.
Yeah, that's true. But you have benefits, you have salary for the most people. Like, for the most part, you like your job initially. And then things, you know, depending on who you're working for, get a little bit more monotonous. Let's say you have to drive, so you don't mind driving every day to work for an hour, 2 hours, whatever the case may be. You can't pick your own hours. Sometimes you start understanding the dynamics of the office, and there's politics, and that you don't like the people that you work with all that much. You could have like a boss. I have friends that are going through this. I have a friend that's an attorney that has a boss that's being overly like concerned with details and is causing her hell, like reporting to HR if she doesn't respond in 15 minutes. It's crazy.
Dang.
Yeah. So then you're now in a job and you don't have any entrepreneurial skills, and you're like, well, I'm not going to get another job like this, because you feel like you have a good job, right? And so slowly and progressively, people start disliking their job based on stats. Like just 70-80% of people just don't like their job. So there's a lack of freedom, there's lack of choice. You know, that's why there's like whole like societies of like communities of professional people that want out of their careers and they're trying to start their own side gigs. Alexandra Fasulo, she has 500,000 followers based on her sharing content on this is how you can get out of your career, pretty much. So it's very easy initially. As an entrepreneur, it's very difficult initially. It sucks. There's a lot of challenges you have to overcome, but as time progresses, it becomes a lot easier. Would you guys agree with that?
I don't think it ever gets easier. I think it changes.
It becomes more fun.
Yeah.
You get stronger.
Yeah, you get stronger. Yeah, definitely. So, long term, you have to identify who you are. You have to be self-aware, right? But how do you know if you're an entrepreneur or not? How can you tell if that life is for you? Entrepreneurship.
That's a question for Sabs.
Mhm.
Love to hear what he has to say.
No, but you too, because you can tell, hey, I know I'm an entrepreneur or not, or tell us about yourself as well.
I think there's a few things that I would look at. A willingness to do the work, a willingness to put it all on your shoulders. Are you willing to bet on yourself? Do you value freedom over security? Right, we live in a society right now that is far more. We think we value freedom, but the decisions we're making are in line with security. Right, what makes us feel comfortable now? What makes us feel safe now? The entrepreneurial path is not one of security, and security largely is an illusion anyway, which is what's laughable about that whole thing. So, but there's a lot of people that want the freedom of entrepreneurship that are not willing to put in the work. So ultimately, it comes down: are you willing to put it all on your shoulders? Are you willing to bet on yourself? Are you willing to be responsible? And that's, I think, what separates most people who do things at a high level, or high performers, successful people, and everyone else. Most people are not willing to do that. And we have a culture that is prevailing message is it's not your fault. You aren't responsible. You aren't accountable. And so that's hurting on a whole different level. But that's what I look at. Are you willing to bet on yourself? Are you willing to do the hard work and bet on yourself? If you are, entrepreneurship is probably a good thing for you. And there's 5 things, just real quickly, I would say. Do you execute? Do you have the ability to follow through? Are you passionate and excited about people? Are you excited about business? Are you excited about your industry? Are you a natural reader? Does somebody need to hold your hand and encourage you to learn and grow? Or are you doing that on your own? Do you handle failure well? Because failure is going to be part of your journey over and over again. And then are you effective at making good decisions, right? Investment and entrepreneurship is all about asymmetrical risk to reward. Are you good at looking at decisions from that paradigm? Can you make good decisions based on that? So if you could check all 5 of those things off and you're willing to bet on yourself, entrepreneurship is probably a good path for you. If not, then I wouldn't. It's much easier to be an employee, but I every time I speak in the front of the room, I always ask everybody in the room who wants to be financially free. Everyone raises their hand. But the fact is, the chances of getting financially free working for somebody else are much, much lower than the chances of doing that if you run your own company or are a founder of a company or own stock in a company that you're part of.
And there's a difference between entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs too, right? Entrepreneurs have entrepreneurial tendencies, but aren't entrepreneurs. Can we go into that? What is the difference between entrepreneurs?
I would say that they're the same thing. Their roles. You could be, to be clear, you could be an entrepreneur and work inside of corporate America. Entrepreneurship to me isn't about owning a business.
Sure.
There are people who own businesses that aren't very entrepreneurial. Being entrepreneurial is a mindset. It's a lifestyle. It's the way you see your life.
Right. Okay.
So that shows up in lots of different ways, and that could mean working inside of another company. Got it.
So, ladies here, as somebody that works within this company, would you consider yourself? I think we have to define more entrepreneurial tendencies versus entrepreneurial tendencies. So, what do you think the difference is, and what do you feel like you are?
Currently, I feel like I'm an entrepreneur. I feel because I'm in this business, they have taught us basically our personal development skills too. I think that's what kind of not separates, but defines what the difference is between an entrepreneur and an entrepreneur, because at this point we're all kind of working with the same vision, right, together versus like our own business, I guess. That's kind of where I'm thinking the difference is at, especially where we are as women here in this business. That's just for me. You guys might think differently. I know that Kat also has Hub and things like that, which is definitely an entrepreneurial role. So I'm speaking definitely for myself then.
Okay.
I think we're all entrepreneurs. We all have our own departments, but we see them as our own businesses. So we're handling like if it's our own business. Even Molly, like even if you think that you are not, you have your own department that you support an entire organization as if it's its own business. So that's how I see it as being in this business.
Got it. Okay, cool. Sorry guys. All right. So, this is how I define it, and then I'm gonna.
Are you
reading it?
What?
Are you gonna read it?
No.
What? I thought that's what he was
I'm just dealing with the technicalities
Got it.
of this podcast.
You're good.
So here's how to define whether you are an entrepreneur or an entrepreneur. And entrepreneurs are great, and they can have entrepreneurial tendencies. They just don't prefer. Like, not many people are entrepreneurs. Let's just be honest. Like, it's a very small minority of people. It's very, very small. It takes a different type of person to be a truly an entrepreneur, and often it may be a lot better. It's more beneficial and more healthy to take the entrepreneurial route, which you have entrepreneurial tendencies. You can grow a company. You can add a lot of value. So here are like the ways I define entrepreneur. If you're taking a salary initially, you're not an entrepreneur. If you're taking a salary initially, that's not your deal. Second, if you don't know how to sell, and you're really good at selling in any capacity, whether it's recruiting or selling products or services, probably entrepreneurial path is not the best for you. Though people have become successful in not being salespeople. If you're a really good operational person, if you're really good in operations, you could be an entrepreneur and succeed.
If you partnered with somebody.
If you partnered with somebody. Exactly. So if you're not good at sales, you feel bad, you have any type of antipathy towards salespeople, you have any type of you look down on salespeople in any way, just stay away from entrepreneurship at all costs. There was there's a university lecture, and the professor, who was an actual entrepreneur at one point, he was talking about sales, and the students all thought that wasn't the first thing that you had to learn with regard to entrepreneurship. They thought,
that makes sense.
They wanted to stay away from it. They wanted to stay away from it. I want to stay away from sales. I like entrepreneurship. I love the accolades you get from it, but I just don't want to do sales. That was their number one response.
Because some people aren't people.
Good luck
people
running a
talkers.
business.
I don't know. Yeah,
a lot of people do say that.
I'm not surprised by that.
Yeah, so they want to stay away from sales.
To interrupt you, just tell a quick story. I had a new grad come in that we were interviewing for a sales position, and it was clearly a sales position. And they shared on one of the questionnaires we had asked that they wanted to run their own business one day. Fantastic. Let's start there. That's a fun conversation. I can relate to that vision. And when we got into it, they were sharing they were excited to run their own business. And then we started getting into the position like, well, we're going to teach you how to sell, because the number one skill set running your own business. And he's like, ooh, oh, what?
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not really interested in learning sales or doing commissions. I'm like, but you said you wanted to run your own business.
Right.
So then I asked him, I just said, well, who's going to pay you when you open up? How are you taking a paycheck if you're not going to do sales?
Exactly.
Straight face, total answer. Won't the government pay me?
What?
No way.
I was like,
L.
And
No
What does that
way.
mean?
That's so crazy.
literally. This is the world we're creating. Yeah.
my
We're
God.
just going to print money and give it to you because something can come from nothing. It works. Trust me.
Yeah. That's a good strategy to go by. Yeah. Wow. Jeez.
Wow is right.
And I've had many conversations with that general sentiment. I'm like, what are we teaching people? That's what I want to know.
This is sad.
Learning at school.
Very, very sad. Okay. What are the other things? If you care too much about what other people think, because there's like
Yes.
If you value stability, especially
there's
early on.
there's a winter you go through that is very difficult. That winter, you're going to be broke. You're going to be questioned. It's going to be, you may have people you hire that are the wrong people or whatever the case may be, and it's going to be very difficult. At least the first two. That's why I say it's very difficult in the beginning with entrepreneurship. It gets better as time progresses. And the job it's something completely different. It's easier when you start a job. It changes as you progress into something much harder. What is another thing? If you can't lead, you can't be an entrepreneur.
Are you talking about entrepreneur or entrepreneur? I mean, you're talking about the difference, not
Oh,
just like as an employee.
So there's
like,
a lot of crossover.
Okay,
There's
yeah.
a lot of
Sorry.
crossover.
Okay.
There's a lot of crossover. So you may
Okay.
have, if you have entrepreneurial tendencies, you can very well be an entrepreneur in an established system,
Okay.
right? And it's okay. There's nothing wrong with not wanting to be an entrepreneur. It's like a very difficult thing. Like it's not fun most of the time. You're having to deal with a lot of no's. Until you become established, it starts becoming more fun, but that's a thing. It's just not, it's not what it's cracked up to be. Like 90% of the time, it's going to be miserable for most people. And then there's that 10% of like hope and light that people like aim towards.
That's funny.
That keeps them going. But for the most part, it's not for everyone. And I think if the first giveaway is I need a salary. I need it. That's the first giveaway. Now, you can be an entrepreneur if you want a salary. You can be a successful entrepreneur and you have entrepreneurial tendencies. But that's the first giveaway for me. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like entrepreneurship has only been cool for like 10 years.
Well, 100 years ago, 150 years ago, everyone was an entrepreneur.
Mm.
But yeah, the mass production, industrial age changed that. And now I think we're kind of going back to the mean a bit, where there's more of a balance.
Yeah.
It's become more popular in the last 10 years as the lie that everyone was sold to go work for a company for 40 years and retire with a gold watch died with the only generation that really enjoyed that, which is the baby boomers.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that for the vast majority of people, entrepreneurship is the proper path. And the reason for that is because you can get entrepreneurial benefits.
Upside
without
mitigating the downside.
With
get the best of both
mitigating
worlds.
the downside and just follow an entrepreneur that just is willing to do whatever it takes or go through the mud for like a long period of time before it start feeling a little bit good, So that's what I think. I think for the most part, most people would enjoy. Why do you think people opt for a stable job, not an entrepreneurial job, but a stable job as opposed to an entrepreneurial job? Why do you think people opt for that and settle for that? When most people, if you ask them, most want an entrepreneurial job. They want freedom. They want to be able to grow a company. They want to have a voice to be able to grow a company. They want to have the ability to make some type of executive decision. And so why do you think people opt for and settle when they really want an entrepreneurial job? And every lady here is an entrepreneur. Why do you feel people settle for that job?
And they want it. They want the entrepreneur, but settle for a
if,
job.
if
is
you
what you're
if
saying?
you actually dug deep with most people, they probably want an entrepreneurial job. They want some security. They want the ability to grow. They want the ability to advance. They want, the ability to make whatever they want. They want to work with people they want to work with, which is like an entrepreneurial tendency. Like entrepreneurs just don't want to work for anyone. That's just like, that's one thing. That's a huge giveaway of an entrepreneur. But why do you think people? I think most people, if you really dig deep, you really ask them questions, they're stuck in a job they hate, right? 70-80% of people are not happy in their careers. They're going to explain their ideal job as an entrepreneur.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I feel
What
like
would you say?
we would like to think that people would explain their ideal job in an entrepreneurial sense, but to me, I think that there's layers with each, position that you might go up in as a company, like employee, manager, entrepreneur, and each comes with a level of risk and responsibility that is greater as you continue to climb. And I don't think that most people, like when you really go through like, hey, like let's take away all of the sexy like fruit of your labor stuff and like let's actually talk about what goes into this. They aren't interested in that.
Yeah, because I think you were just explaining entrepreneur it just sounded great. Like, of course, who is not going to say that they want a salary and can talk to the executive and help make decisions? Like, who doesn't want that?
True.
But what goes into that is working really freaking hard and day in and day out. And although you get a salary, you're working around the clock. I don't think that people realize that. They're like, what do you mean? Like, I get calls on Saturday? Like, what is that supposed to mean? I'm supposed to work on Sunday?
Yeah. Or even like the holidays too. Or
Like we have offices across the nation, so I get up really early, and I don't think that they know that, but I'm getting emails and calls at 5 o'clock in the morning because that is 8 o'clock on the East Coast, and people are going to go, what? Why are they calling me at 5 in the morning?
So then,
well, that's what you wanted. That's what you wanted in the entrepreneur position.
So you think most people, if they actually heard what entrepreneurs really like, they would?
Yeah, if they watched us for a week, I don't think that they want to do it.
I don't know if I want to do this.
Yeah.
Got it. So, all right. So then let's explain it. Let's flesh that out then. What is truly an entrepreneur? You said the ugly side of being an entrepreneur.
Parts of it. That's just part of it.
What is the ugly? Some other ugly sides of being an entrepreneur?
I mean, I think they have a lot to do with what you explained as like being the negatives for the entrepreneurial side. I think I'm just trying to think of like, okay, what have been some of the negatives? And I think like when things are going well, I mean, it's awesome. And I remember Sab's text message that that you had sent me about a meme of the entrepreneurship, right? It's just like a whole roller coaster of like, oh, like life is great. Like this really sucks. It's just a whole like roller coaster. Yeah.
And when something goes bad, it is your fault.
Yeah.
Even if it's not your company, it is still your fault because it is your department.
Yeah. So I think
that's another one.
Yeah, I think it's just it comes with the same pressure of being an entrepreneur. I think for me, some of the toughest times has been just like with your team, right? You have to, for me, you have to like make sure. And I don't think this is a negative part, like the whole being on your A game like all the time, because I mean, who wouldn't want to be on their A game all the time? But it's like on the days and times when you like don't feel like it, or you're having a rough day, you have a whole team that you are responsible for. So it's almost like you don't have a choice. This is what you signed up for, and so you got to level up. You have to find it somewhere. So I think that part of that negative piece could be when you do want to rest and you do just want to let your hair down and just like,
relax.
But you can't. And I'm not saying that you can't or that you won't, you will, but it's just that your time to do that has to be a lot more intentional, more strategic, as opposed to having a job, having the clock in, clock out, and you can, you have that time where you're not responsible for anything, so you can just, whatever.
Also, as an entrepreneur, don't expect to get your hand held throughout the process. It's more like, hey, figure it out.
Yeah.
Can you guys tell me a story of like where you had to learn this or?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
So I started at Phoenix Consulting Group being a front desk. So I helped with candidates and just being up front just in case someone came in. And then their idea was, okay, we're going to do this. You're going to be part-time. Then we're going to move you into a full-time position.
Right.
And then Molly wanted to get into social media. So I would be taking over recruiting. So I started recruiting a little bit. And I was like, I mean, it's cool. It's cool. You can bring people in. And then Sebastian got contacted from our client broker to pilot a position that was more so quality management, if you will. And they asked him, do you have anyone? And he goes, yeah, I think so. And so I started kind of doing recruiting and that. And I told Sebastian straight up, because he was like, what do you think about this? Like, how is it going? And I was like, I'm going to be honest. Like, I would so much rather do this than recruiting. And he goes, okay, run with it.
Right.
He goes, you're the only one that's doing this in the entire nation. So I want you to trailblaze it and good luck. And I was like, okay. And so I had to figure it out on my own. You know, granted, I did have people that were kind of helping me and showing me the ropes of certain systems and things that we were doing and how I need to move the needle in certain places. But it was me by myself. And I had to figure it out. And then I was able to then basically start my own little business within that to help other offices, and other people wanted to do the same position. So then all these other business owners were reaching out to me, hey, I want to hire someone that does what you do for my organization. Okay, great. All those people hated it.
Right.
They absolutely, I'm sorry, you call customers? Okay. What if I don't want to do that? And I was like, that's a big part of what goes into it. And then you also have to understand how to coach an entire office around how to move quality metrics. And they were like, oh, I'm not good at talking at people. And I'm like, okay, that's totally fine. Use the owner as, the power of influence, and you give him those points.
That's another thing.
I don't know about talking to the owner about that. And I'm like, okay. I was like, good luck.
Well, that's another thing about introvert versus entrepreneur is like you have to be a problem solver. There's no way. Like,
don't come with me with a problem unless you have a solution for it.
Yeah. Come with 3 solutions. Don't come with me with 3 problems.
Yeah.
What are 3 solutions to your problem? And then once you realize that I'm only going to listen to solutions, then you won't come to me with anything. Really, like you'll just find the solution, right? So that's a big thing. So how do you identify? There's a lot of entrepreneurs that aren't really entrepreneurs that are trying to make it happen. And entrepreneurs that are trying to make it happen, but that's not them. Oops. Can you push 1 or 2?
Yay.
You want to touch
Either one.
Yeah.
Do 1. Now do 2.
Bring that over here.
Oh, darn.
I lost the privilege.
Dang it. I did.
It's on auto. What does auto mean?
I think that's it.
You want to push it?
Yeah. There we go.
Nope.
I think we're good. Okay.
Okay, great.
All right.
Yay.
So be a problem solver. One thing I've noticed, I think about most ladies here that I've worked with, is that there's not really like a lot of hand holding. It's really like obviously training, like with regards to this equipment and stuff, like you don't want to spend 7-10 hours like learning this stuff on your own. So there's a benefit to getting trained, but there's also like nobody's going to hold your hand through the process. You're not going to be like, Sabs, I need help with this, or I need, please show me how to do it. And the Sabs would not accept that either. Like I already know. He'd be like, all right, what's the solution? I don't know the solution.
That's so funny.
That's
yeah, because I
probably
feel
what he
like
would
whenever
say.
I have something, I have a conversation with Sabs without having a conversation with Sabs. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, all right, so I'm going to go, and then he's going to tell me this, and then he's going to ask me this, okay? And then I like answer it to myself.
What do you think you should do?
Well, what do you, yeah, it's like, what do you think you should do? Ah, okay.
But what do you think I should
Socratic
do?
method. The Socratic method. Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's so funny.
He doesn't
But
even know
when-
this is going on.
Yeah.
Like, we actually already talked to you.
We already
about
talked to you about
in our
it.
heads.
Remember we had this conversation?
That's so funny.
But I feel like unless I have like reached the bottom of my imaginary conversation with Sabs and I can't come up with a solution, then I'm like,
When's the last time you
okay.
actually went to Sabs for something?
I think it was maybe like 2 weeks ago, right? Like maybe 2 weeks ago. I don't know. But I feel like whenever I do call or text, it's like, I at least I think that you think like, okay, she does need something, because I feel like the response is a
Yeah.
lot quicker. I don't know.
But I also think he also reads the person too. Like he's very like, you read people and you understand like what would be best for them, right? So like if there's somebody that needs a little bit of like, hey, help me a little bit, I think you would do that if they're the type of person that would feel appreciated if you did that. If you just
I
helped
think
a
we
little bit.
thoroughly explained to Sebastian too, when we're in kind of a pickle, we're like, well, we did this and then that didn't work. So we did this and that didn't work. So we've tried
Yeah.
certain things
Yeah.
to fix it. And then that's when we're like, all right, plan Z,
Yeah.
call Sebastian.
Yeah.
Or there are other times when I was talking about the whole like, you just, there's no time. Sometimes it's just like, I need to tip the cup and I don't have any solutions. Here's my junk.
Yeah.
And then that's it.
But
But
it
it's
could-
almost just like,
Yeah.
I need somebody to hear.
That could be a bad thing though too, like expecting people to always figure it out, because some people feel appreciated when you want to actually help them, and like, right? That's what I've learned, because I'm the type of person that's just always going to figure it out. You don't need to help me with anything. Just what do you need done? I'm going to get it done. But I think like I've been in the situation, especially with Sabs, I've been in the situation where I'm like, oh, I actually need help. Like, I don't know. Like if we're doing PPE orders, where do I place the order? I have no clue. Right. But there is like something to be said about like wanting to help, being open to helping, and not just always like being rudely dismissive of people that want help. I think there's something to be said about that. And I think every entrepreneur needs to learn that. Right. Would you agree?
Yeah, I don't think asking for help is a bad thing. To me, I'm more concerned if somebody doesn't ask for help that genuinely needs it. What we try to alleviate is lazy thinking or relying on somebody else to do your thinking.
Right.
If you've already come in, you've done the work, and you don't have a clear solution yet, or you just want more brains in the game to come up with a better solution, that's an appropriate time to ask for help. The piece that I'm constantly trying to cultivate in my team and with my guys is don't rely on me to do your thinking. Because what happens as playing the long game, if people are relying on you or they outsource their thinking to you,
Really bad
they're always going to
situation.
need you.
Right.
So it's like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? I'm that call, if you need me, phone a friend. Yes, I'm there. Let's talk through it, but let's make sure you're doing the thinking first.
You got to take that journey at some point.
That way we come in as equals. And that's what I want. Like, hey,
Right.
this is the work I've done. This is what I've seen. What do you think we should do? Versus the place is on fire. What should we do? Grab a fucking hose.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Make sure to hit that like button. And we'll look forward to having you on our future podcasts as well. Thank you so much. Hope you have a wonderful day.